Hello, I'm John David Bruja on location, standing in front of the Hillsboro Inlet Lighthouse in Florida. And welcome to a special edition of John's Traveling Movie Corner. Hello and welcome to episode 3 of John's Traveling Movie Corner. United States Lighthouse Society presents the Florida Atlantic Coast Lighthouse Tour. And we are continuing touring lighthouses, museums, and maybe a boat ride or two. And we are at our first lighthouse, the Hillsboro Inlet Lighthouse. First lit in 1907 at a height of 137 feet. In 1902, Congress appropriated $45,000. In 1903, Congress appropriated $25,000. In 1904, Congress appropriated $20,000. In August of the same year, the Department of Treasury buys the land. In 1906, the light was completed, inspected, and approved in Detroit. Yeah, that's right, I said Detroit, because then it was disassembled and shipped to Miami. In 1907, located in District 7, the light was first lit in March. And that's right, I'm already up the tower and outside. Climbed 179 steps for this spectacular view. And along with getting up to the lantern room, we even had a special trip all the way up to go right next to the second order Fresnel lens, a rare opportunity you don't get in most places. In fact, when it was electrified in 1932, it went from 630,000 to 5,500,000 candle power, making it the strongest light in the world. Hillsboro Inlet Lighthouse was automated in 1974. In 1992, an electric drive mechanism for the lens failed. In 1998, renovation started, and in 1999, a refurbished lighthouse was operating. But weeks later, it froze up again, and after some more tinkering to support a 20-ton lens, it was finally relit in 2000. In 2013, the U.S. Coast Guard handed down all responsibility of operations and maintenance of the light. The Hillsboro Lighthouse Preservation Society was founded in 1997. The radio building serves as a small museum, and next to that and the generator is a flagpole, fog bell, and a plaque honoring those keepers who served Hillsboro Inlet Lighthouse. The original 3 dwellings served as homes for the original principal keeper and their families. Behind me is the second assistant keeper's dwelling, which was used until 1933. The principal keeper's cottage and the storehouse was sold in 1934, and after that, the families of the principal keeper lived in this house until 1998. The dwellings became beachfront vacation cottages for senior military personnel. The Hillsboro Lighthouse Museum and Information Center opened in 2012 on Hillsboro Park on Pompano Beach with artifacts about the light, along with a 10-foot statue of the Barefoot Mailman. The Barefoot Mailman statue, made of stone, was moved to the lighthouse grounds in 2003. In June of 2003, the United States Postal Service had a set of Southeastern lighthouse stamps, and Hillsboro Inlet was selected to represent Florida. And you might have noticed another renovation has started at the Hillsboro Inlet Lighthouse, with completion hopefully in the next couple of years. Thanks to our tour guides and our bus driver, after our excellent meal last night and before we got back to the hotel, they took us to Hillsboro Inlet Park, directly across from Hillsboro Inlet Lighthouse, for some stunning evening shots. Well, we reached our second lighthouse of the day, which happens to be the last lighthouse of the day. And it may be the last lighthouse we climb on the trip. It's Cape Florida. First established in 1825, the current one behind me at 95 feet in 1846. Key Biscayne was a popular place for pirates, including Black Caesar, until he was caught and hung in 1718. In May of 1822, Congress appropriated $8,000. 3,000 more came in 1824. Then in 1825, the 65-foot tall brick tower was completed. In 1836, a band of Seminole Indians attacked the tower and the keeper's dwelling. In 1846, Congress appropriated $13,000 to rebuild the lighthouse. The light remained out of service until 1847 when it was relit. A new height of 95 feet and a new second-order Fresnel lens both happened in 1855, when Congress appropriated more money in 1854, approximately $15,000. And yes, it was another light that was dimmed during the Civil War and relit back in 1866, but then it was dimmed again in 1878 when the Fowey Rocks replaced it. Unfortunately, the keeper's house and the cook's house was destroyed by tropical storms. Cape Florida was rejected not once but twice as a historic landmark by the federal government. The state of Florida purchased the light and tip of land in 1966, with the park becoming Bill Beggs State Park when it opened in 1967. The Cape Florida Lighthouse was relit in July 4th of 1978. The keeper's dwelling, cookhouse, outhouse, and cistern were all rebuilt. In 1992, damaged by Hurricane Andrew once again dimmed the light until renovations were finished in 1996. It was relit to coincide with the Miami Centennial celebration. I'm making my way up Cape Florida Lighthouse, all the way up to the lantern room. And like most lighthouses, when you get up to the lantern room and outside, you get that stunning view, and it was no different at Cape Florida. And like the previous lighthouse, we also had a chance to go up a little further and check out the lens that they have in Cape Florida. The entrance to the gate behind me is the old lantern room, a piece of the old brick wall, and a section of stairs that once led up to the lantern room. And Cape Florida was a favorite backdrop for TV shows like Miami Vice, Burn Notice, and The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and movies like They Were Expendable from 1945 and The Mean Season from 1985. Well, we're beginning the last day of our United States Lighthouse Society presents the Florida Atlantic Coast Lighthouse Tour. It's going to be an unusual day. It's going to be 2 boat rides. The last one, a high-speed boat to Boca Chita Key Island to see an ornament type lighthouse. But first, we're going to be taking a airboat ride through the Everglades for a couple of hours. But before we take our airboat ride through the Everglades, how about some facts? 1, it starts in southern Florida near Orlando by the Kissimmee River and runs toward the Florida Bay. Everglades National Park covers 1.5 million acres. Over 350 species of birds are there, and it's the only place on Earth where American alligators and American crocodiles coexist. 7 million people rely on the Everglades for drinking water, and it was designated a national park in 1947. Well, it was an interesting tour through the Everglades on our airboat. We did get to see some wildlife, whether it was in the water or in the air, and we also saw some vegetation. And next up on the tour, we passed by Duck Club Island, a popular filming location for such shows as Dexter and CSI Miami, and enjoyed a beautiful hour-and-a-half tour through the Everglades. Well, after taking our high-speed airboat, we did make it to Boca Chita Key Island. And that's right, behind me is the Boca Chita light, or some call it an ornament. Yeah, that's right. I'm actually at a national park. I am on Boca Chita Key, and it's the island north of the Upper Keys in Biscayne National Park, Miami-Dade County, Florida. Built by Mark Honeywell. Unfortunately, the Coast Guard would not let him put a lamp into the lighthouse. It was Mark Honeywell of Honeywell Heating Controls bought the island, Boca Chita Island, in 1937 and started construction on the area. For the next 2 years, Mark Honeywell then worked on the rock structure around the area. After his wife, Olive, died in 1939 due to sustains from a fall, Mark Honeywell stopped all development on the island. He sold his estate in 45, and then 40 years later it became part of Biscayne National Park. After leaving Boca Chita, our drivers then took us by Cape Florida, a lighthouse we visited the previous day. Then, with the assistance of some of our tour travelers, and of course our drivers, Manny and Adrian, our next destination was 7 miles southeast of Cape Florida. Thankfully, the Atlantic was somewhat calm that day, and we finally reached our bonus light, the Fowey Rocks Lighthouse. The cast iron screw pile lighthouse was first lit in 1878 with a first order lens. At over 110 feet above water, the Fowey Rocks Lighthouse has a 2-story keeper's dwelling that was built inside the tower's exoskeleton in April of 1878. Automated in 1975, the lighthouse was the last on the Florida reefs to be automated and is now part of Biscayne National Park. Then it came to an end with our ride back to Miami and our farewell dinner. Well, we've come to the end of our tour. We went to our last destination. We have come full circle. We started in Jacksonville and we ended in Miami. We got to see 10 lighthouses, plus maybe a range light or another lighthouse on the way, a couple of museums, and 2 extremely different boat rides. Hello, I'm John David Bruja, and welcome to Pit Stop. It's a different type of show where Carlene and I make stops before we do our actual tour of lighthouses. And this trip was no different. We flew in 3 days ahead of time, landed in Charleston, checked out some forts and lighthouses, went to Beaufort, South Carolina, did a history and movie tour, and then we ended in St. Simon's Island in Georgia, and of course checked out a lighthouse. Welcome to another pit stop. Unfortunately, we arrived at Georgia's oldest and tallest lighthouse, Tybee Island, at dusk, so it was too late to climb the 178 steps to the lantern room, but was still able to get some excellent photos. Tybee Island Lighthouse was first built in 1736, the current one in 1867 at 154 feet tall. Hello and welcome to another pit stop. I'm standing in front of St. Simon's Lighthouse in Georgia. After we left Tybee Island, we drove to St. Simon's, Georgia, where our hotel just happened to be walking distance from the lighthouse. So after we unpacked, we walked across the street to check out the lighthouse. We walked all the way around the lighthouse and took some excellent photos of St. Simon's Lighthouse at night. Fort St. Simon's was located on this spot when it was built in 1738, but unfortunately it was destroyed by Spanish soldiers in 1742. In 1804, $7,000 was appropriated to build a lighthouse here and was finally completed in 1810 with a 75-foot tall tower. The current tower and dwelling was completed in 1872 after the previous lighthouse was destroyed during the Civil War. The tower stands at 104 feet in height, and hopefully I'll get a chance to climb the 129 spiral steps all the way up to the lantern room. The oil house, located next to the lighthouse, arrived around 1890. The gazebo behind me, which was used earlier as a ornamental cover for a water tank, arrived in 1910. And at one point, located alongside of it, was a cannon that was here as early as 1800. That's right, I'm getting ready to climb the 129 spiral steps all the way up to the tower. But before that, go up to the second floor and go back in time to 1907 and check out how the keeper and his family lived back then. Well, I made it up the 129 steps, had a chance to check out the third Fresnel lens, and now I'm going to step outside for a spectacular view of the surrounding area. And I was not kidding about the view. Check it out. 8 full-time lighthouse keepers served at St. Simon's Lighthouse. The flash behind me can be visible for up to 23 miles. And Orlando Pohl designed the current lighthouse, and Charles Kluski built it. The first lighthouse was fueled with whale oil. The current one behind me with a third order Fresnel lens. St. Simon's Lighthouse was automated in 1950. A major restoration took place in 2012 on the keeper's dwelling as well as the lighthouse itself. And right alongside of the St. Simon's Lighthouse is the A. W. Jones Heritage Center, which serves as the Coastal Georgia Historical Society's headquarters since 2008. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this show. A show of this magnitude has a lot of people in front and behind the camera putting it together. And at this time, I would like to take a moment and thank those people. I would like to thank the volunteers and staff at the Hillsboro Inlet Lighthouse for allowing us on the grounds and inside and all the way up and out of the lantern room. And especially, I would like to thank Ralph, Dave, and Edgar. And I would like to thank the volunteers and staff at Cape Florida Lighthouse for allowing us in the grounds, in the lighthouse, and all the way up to the lantern room. And a special thanks to Christina for providing all of this. I would like to thank our tour guide, Devin, for Coopertown Airboat Tour Guide for getting us safely through the Everglades. And at this time, I would like to thank Manny and the captain, Adrian, in their thriller Miami Speedboat Adventure for getting us safely to and from Boca Chita Key so we could see the ornamental lighthouse behind us. I would like to thank the United States Lighthouse Society for providing us this tour and our tour guides, Cassandra Rollins and Dean Lohmeyer. And finally, I would like to thank the hardest working travel consultant, photographer, and shopper on this trip, my wife, Carlene I, because if it wasn't for her, this trip would not have been possible. I'm John David Bruja, on location in Cape Florida Lighthouse, standing outside the lantern room. And this has been a special edition of John's Traveling Movie Corner. United States Lighthouse Society presents the Florida Atlantic Gulf Coast Lighthouse Tour. I hope you enjoyed the ride. you.